we're going right along a hand-stacked wall of rock right here. How's it going, guys? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. Well, thank you all for joining me on this adventure. So I'm heading out for what's probably going to end up being a pretty snowy trip. It looks like they're calling for heavy snow. We've got about 6 inches on the ground so far, and it's just dumping right now. So the temps are predicted to be down around 3 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll have some challenges out there, but in spite of that, we're going to have a good time. So we're going to cook a great meal, and along the way I'm going to share with you guys some of the tips and tricks that I use to stay warm and comfortable when I'm out winter camping in some of the most extreme weather conditions. All right, well, we're off the pavement and we're heading back down a road called Frederick Butte Road, which some of you who are from the area might be familiar with it. If you're not, the whole kind of what I call the Frederick Butte area is just a good area to explore. There was a lot of homestead activity out here. Man, I'm really looking forward to this trip. I've got a great camp meal to cook for you guys. It's one of my favorites and something that I usually do once or twice a year. Maybe we'll stumble across some historic sites. Even though it's bitter cold and winter, we'll still have a good time out here. All right, so we're off that main road now and we're heading back into an area. What I'd like to do is find an area where I've got some pretty decent stands of old growth juniper, because that'll give me a good supply of firewood and hopefully a little bit of cover from the wind too. So there's not a lot of snow, which is actually kind of nice. One thing that can happen out here in the backcountry is when you get, depending on how dense the snow is, you get like 6, 8, 10 inches of snow, and what can happen is you really burn a lot of fuel just constantly pushing through that snow. It just adds that much more resistance going through here, and oh yeah, and really just kind of shoots your gas mileage out the window. Check this out, guys. I see something interesting. We're going to jump out of the rig here real quick and look at something. Check this out right here. I just noticed we're going down this little 2-track road and we're going right along a hand-stacked wall of rock right here. So that means there's got to be a homestead site out here, but man, it just looks like god-awful country for one. But there's a hand-stacked rock wall fence of some kind there, so there's got to be something out here. Ooh, dang, that wind is blowing out there. Oh yeah, that rock wall's getting more pronounced along here. That's pretty cool. All right, let's check our map here, see where we're at. I think at this point we're just we're looking for a place with a little shelter from this wind. The snow's starting to blow again and there's a decent little wind out here. So I just wanted to get to some place where we've got at least a little bit of protection from this wind. I don't want to be just constantly fighting it. And the wind's coming from that way, so I'm thinking if I can work myself around the end of that ridge, I'll have a little bit more protection from the wind, I'm thinking. And it looks like I've got a road on here that I found using my Gaia GPS app, by the way. Looks like I got a map marker on there for a homestead site up here too, so it'll be interesting to see what that's all about. All right, we are off. Wow, and just like that, the sun's coming out. Well, you know what they say, if you don't like the weather in Central Oregon, just wait 5 minutes. It doesn't look like it's going to be out for long, but I can see a tiny little bit of blue sky up through there. Now, it's interesting, since the last time I've been in here, looks like they've done some juniper abatement. So out in this country, it's a constant battle trying to keep the juniper trees at bay. So the ranchers and BLM and everyone are just constantly cutting them and trimming them and thinning them and doing everything they can to eradicate as many of them as possible. All right, we are starting to push more and more snow out here. I bet we've got 8-10 inches on the ground now. So we're just coming around the corner of this little butte, and I'm hoping when we slide around to the other side, we'll be a little bit more out of the wind and we'll find a nice level spot to make a camp. It looks like there's some decent places in here. Definitely have some old growth juniper. So, okay, yep, this is working out just perfect. This road's coming around the corner of the ridge. The wind should now be coming from that direction, and we should be actually sheltered from it by this big ridge. All right, it took me a while longer, but I think I finally found a decent spot to camp. I've got a little bit of snow coming down. It cleared up for a little while. So what we're going to do really fast is just get our camp kind of set up and get a fire going, because I want to get some coals going for cooking our dinner on tonight. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to clear a little bit of snow out. And for that, we're going to use this takedown shovel from Demos that my buddy Josh got me over at Lolo Overland. So this is a compact fold-down shovel. This one happens to be made out of aluminum, but one of the things I like about it is it's going to be big enough to actually move a decent amount of snow. So I'm basically just going to clear out the area underneath the ladder where my ladder for my rooftop tent will go, and then a little kind of walkway where I'll be walking back and forth in here. I got some snow kind of cleared out of here, so there's not quite so much. And now, one of the tips for winter camping is to utilize whatever you can to provide overhead cover. So we might get intermittent snow off and on tonight. We've got a little spitting right now, so I'm going to trim up these branches so I can actually get back up underneath that tree to kind of set up my cooking area and everything. And that will allow me to utilize that tree as overhead cover to keep the snow off of me. I'm taking the branches that I trimmed out of here and I'm stuffing them in here to make a little bit of a windbreak. And it may not seem like a lot, but again, every little bit helps out here in the wintertime. I've got myself a nice little area cleared out in here. I've got all the overhead branches cleared, so I don't have to worry about banging my head into any branches or anything like that. I built a little bit of a windbreak behind me there. That's the direction the wind's coming from. I'll have the fire right there. My Jeep's over there. All right, I don't have too much time to mess around tonight, so I just put a little hand sanitizer on a couple of shop towels. Take the easy way to lighten my fire. Yeah, check this out. My pants legs are frozen solid. They got wet because I didn't put those gaiters on like I should have. Maybe I'll get them dried out by the fire and get the gaiters on later. I got this, another new piece of gear I'm going to show you guys in just a bit. It is about 18 degrees out here, 16 to 18 degrees out here. Alright guys, this is a new piece of gear that I've been pretty excited to try out. This is a piece of gear from MC Ranch Overland. Mike, he's up in Canada, heck of a great guy, really good friend, and he sent me one of his fire reflector walls. Now, one thing you guys should know is almost every time I build a fire reflective wall behind it. And so a lot of times camping, especially out here like this when it's frozen, that can take me a while, like maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes to knock rocks out of the ground or cut the wood. So what Mike's done is he's made a portable fire reflector wall that comes in this nice bag, and well, heck, why don't I just show you guys. Really heavy duty bag, and let's open this thing up. Oh yeah, look at this. All right, let's set this thing up. Wow guys, well that is definitely a lot easier than me building a fire reflective wall. So already I can tell it's a pretty good size. The height and everything is just tall enough to really help carry the smoke up, and then because it's this aluminum, it'll reflect a little bit of heat back towards me, and all in all it just makes for a little bit more cozy of a fire experience. So all right, that fire reflective wall is doing its job. You can feel that heat all the way back here. Man, it is cold. That temperature is dropping fast, and it's getting dark pretty fast. So I'm going to set up my ready light here real quick so we can have some overhead camp light, and then we're going to start some food going. When I was growing up, for the longest time we used Coleman lanterns. Were the best overhead light we had around camp, and I remember constantly filling them with the white gas and always dealing with the white gas, constantly pumping them up, always having them go dim at the worst possible time. But for years and years and years, that's what we used, was the old school white gas Coleman lanterns. All right guys, well I'm sorry I've got the rig running because it's really cold, and I wanted to make sure that the battery was good in the Jeep. So I've got it running a little bit. I've also got some batteries charging in there. So I'll shut that off in just a minute here, but I wanted to show you guys I'm getting ready to cook dinner, and I'm gonna do one of my favorite little one-pot meals here. So I've got a whole array of ingredients here. You guys are gonna see me as I put those in, but I'm gonna do kind of a Louisiana red beans and rice sausage, but I've got some other stuff, some mushrooms, some cilantro, some carrots, but basically this is just a really easy one-pot meal that's gonna be really tasty and give me a lot of calories, a lot of energy. This is one of my favorite meals, so I'll hit you back here in a couple of minutes as I put it all together. So I'm super excited about this. So I'm kind of working on another business venture, and this is a prototype that my buddy Dave, who one of his businesses is, he happens to own a machine shop. So this grill has been a vision of mine for a long time, and we finally have a prototype. So I'm kind of out here testing it out. I'm curious what you guys think, if there'd be any interest in this if I actually went into production. So the grill's two pieces. This is the grill here, and then this is a stainless steel stake that you drive in the ground and the grill slides on top of. So let me show you guys how this works real quick. So I think I'm gonna want that guy about right there. Boy, that ground's nice and soft. And there it is. So the idea is, it's a rotating grill, just drive it in the ground. It's got a nice solid stainless steel spike, and what I'll do is I'll move some coals over here underneath it, and then we'll be able to set our pot on it, or we can grill things directly on it, whatever we want to do. But what we're going to do is set our pot on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cook up a little bit of bacon and some butter in that pan. So we're just going to singe the bacon first. All right, so I moved over a nice little bed of coals underneath here. Now, and we'll just melt that butter and singe that bacon a little bit. All right, that bacon crisped up nice. So now the next thing is I'm going to put in the carrots because they take the longest to cook. And I'm going to put in a little bit of water just to give it a little bit of liquid in the pan. All of my condiments here are frozen. My onions, everything. And we'll get that cooking. So I've got a can of red beans and then a can of diced tomatoes right there. So I'll pour those in. I'll actually pour the rest of the vegetables and the diced tomatoes in next. Then I'll put the beans in one of the last things. All right, let's go in here with some other ingredients. Go in here with our vegetables, our celery, mushrooms. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go in with the tomatoes because we'll want that juice in there too. Give that a stir, and then that will go back on the fire. Put the sausage in. Make sure it's boiling good after I put the sausage in, and then I'll set it down on the fire. It's just cold enough out here that this works really good using my Coleman Peak stove to fire it up and get it to a boil. And then once it's boiling, I'll set it down there on the coals and let it just simmer. Got the camera all rigged up with hand warmers and everything to keep it going. The nice thing is it's actually nice and toasty right here next to the fire like it always is. So all right, I'm going to add the rice, and I'm telling you guys there's only one way to go with the rice. You got to use the Zatarain's dirty rice mix. So we'll just let that simmer until the rice softens up. And all right, so the rice is nice and tender. So now I'm going to go in with my beans. Oh no, they're frozen. Ah, the pleasures of winter camping. All right, we're going to let that come right back up to a simmer. Then we're going to set it down on the fire. All right, so now I got another little bit of an issue here. I've got this water jug in here. As cold as it is, it's going to freeze tonight. So yet another use for a hand warmer is I'm going to actually take a couple of these hand warmers. I'm going to tape one on this side and one on the other side of it, and hopefully that'll be just enough to keep it from freezing solid overnight. Tape the top of the hand warmer with the Gorilla Tape. We'll put it right there. And I'll put one on the other side too. And usually just 2 of these mega warmers will keep this jug at least inside my vehicle from freezing solid tonight. Alright guys, the wait is over. It is time for dinner. Oh my god, this looks amazing. Alright guys, let's give this a try. Got a little, let's see, what flavor of hint do I have? Pomegranate flavored hint. Oh, this is gonna do just right. Wow guys, cheers. That's amazing. The amount of flavor in this is just absolutely incredible. And for a one-pot meal, you know, you can actually process the vegetables and everything at home, have them already chopped up and ready to drop in. So it's actually a fairly easy meal. A little more challenging when you're trying to film it because there's some timing involved. But really, you can do the whole thing in about an hour. Oh man, this is really good. Well, it's cold out here, but with that fire reflective wall, it actually keeps a little bit of heat back here, so it's bearable. All right, guys, well, dinner is done, the dishes are done, and it's darn cold out here. Everything that's liquid is freezing about as fast as I remove it from any kind of a heat source. Well, I had a really enjoyable evening. I apologize I didn't get more filming done. It's always a little bit of a challenge filming when the temperature's like this, but hopefully you guys enjoyed joining me for the evening meal and everything. I want to take just a couple of minutes, like always, and thank everyone who contributed to the PayPal donate link in the description of my videos down below. That's my gas and tires fund, and that helps keep my channel independent and helps keep me in cameras and video editing equipment and everything. If you would like to make a monetary contribution to my channel, the best way to do that is by clicking on the donate link down in the description of the video below. That goes to a PayPal donate button and allows you to make a one-time or a recurring contribution. I appreciate every little bit you guys contribute. My other camera just died, so I've got my little GoPro out, and I don't know if you guys can even see me at all. But anyway, I'm just going to kick it by the fire here for a few minutes and then crawl up into my rooftop tent. All right, guys, it is chilly tonight, so I broke open a couple of hand warmers, tossed a couple of them down in the foot box of my sleeping bag. That will help keep me nice and toasty. Right now, I've got my little butane Cupid heater going just to warm it up in here while I'm crawling into my sleeping bag and getting warmed up. Throwing a couple of hand warmers down in the foot box of my sleeping bag makes a huge difference. It's amazing how much just those couple of little things that are putting off a little bit of heat that your body doesn't have to put off, they're doing some of the work for you of warming up your sleeping bag. And it's amazing how much of a difference a couple of those can make. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it a night. I've just been laying here reading. Anyways, I think that's about all for this day. Tomorrow we wake up and we start battling the camera batteries and everything again to try to film the adventures for tomorrow. But so for tonight, Coyote Works out, and I'll see y'all in the morning for coffee. Well, good morning, sunshines. Well, I had a pretty decent night's sleep, and we are going to throw some pants on, and I'll catch back up with you when we're outside. Whew, it is brisk this morning. We're going to get a little fire going, and just because I don't want to mess around with it for a long time, I have a couple of these blue shop towels that I put some hand sanitizer on. Surprisingly enough, there's still a little bit of heat coming out of my fire pit here. We're going to have to go on the hunt for some more firewood. All right, got some firewood. We're gonna make a little coffee real quick, a little iced coffee. And I wanted to show you guys something. So I got my fire over there, and then look at this line right here on this table. This is where the heat from the fire reaches where it's brought the temperature up above freezing, and it's starting to melt this frost back on my table. Pretty interesting that with that reflective wall and just a relatively small little fire, that's how far back the heat from the fire is carrying. All right, the moment of truth. We'll see if my stuff everything inside my cooler is frozen solid. All right, well, this is messed up. My eggnog, my eggnog's, yeah, that's good. Now let's see if my iced coffee got a little bit of a give to it. Let's get that out. We're gonna fry up some bacon here. So what I'm having this morning, I kind of call a frontier breakfast, and it's basically just a simple fat protein and some kind of a simple carbs. So back in the days of the Old West and the frontier, a lot of times, like, breakfast for guys was really, really simple. It was a chunk of salt pork and a little bit of hardtack. Really, it was just all about whatever was the simplest kind of a food that could provide the most energy that would last the longest in kind of a variety of conditions. So that hardtack and salt pork was a real common one, or even just hardtack and like what we would call bacon grease or the pork fat. That was oftentimes what breakfast was for those guys. It was also oftentimes what dinner was. So what I'm having this morning is I've got a couple of pieces of sweetbread right here, and then I've got a pretty good sized little pan of bacon that I'm going to cook up. And that's going to be my frontier breakfast. All right, here goes, guys. Frontier breakfast. So basically, I've got my pan of bacon right here. Got a couple, in this case, little sweet rolls. I'm just going to dip them in the bacon grease. Not the fanciest breakfast in the world, but it's not a bad combination. And it'll keep me going for the next couple hours. Move my ready light a little more out into the sun so it can be charging up. I'm going to go ahead and get my rooftop tent put away, get my camp pretty much buttoned up so that after I hike around and explore this area, we can just jump in the rig and take off, because there's another spot that I really want to hike around today. Yeah, I kind of like this little camp spot in here. I might actually mark it so that I can come back to it. I rarely ever do that, but this is in an area where there's a lot more exploring around that I want to do. There's a lot of history in here, and I'll show you guys here in just a little bit, but even with all this snow, I'm seeing some signs that there was some pretty good historic activity pretty close to here. When we go on a little walk, I'll show you guys what I mean. Having said that, this is a pretty good spot right here. It's got some good cover, some good trees around. It's got some good wood. It's actually a decent location. I've got a tiny little bit of cell service here. So here's that grill. Pretty nice little piece of kit. Dave did a awesome job of machining it all up. So the thing is I've had a lot of people ask me about this grill, and the problem with it is it is very expensive to make, so it is possible that Dave and I could make some production ones for sale if there was enough interest in it, but we've got the design kind of perfected at this point, so it's just a matter of, is there enough demand to make it worth it for us to do a run of them in his machine shop. All right, we're just going to go for a quick little walk here. Well, I tell you guys, it seems like it's kind of warm when you're hanging around that campfire, but once you get out away from it a little ways, you realize how cold it is. I want to show you guys a couple of things real quick. So one of the first things I noticed is these old stumps like this. That stump's probably a good 100 or more years old. So that was cut back in the Homestead era, and I see a few more of them up in here. So there's actually, for whatever reason, there was some activity, and they were coming up in here and cutting juniper trees. Now, it could have been for firewood, for a camp, or a homestead. We don't really know. All right, check this out. So even peeking through the snow, we can find some signs of stuff. So it looks like that's some kind of old bucket. Oh yeah, I can feel more tin crunching underneath the ground. Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of it here. Let's see what this is. Oh yeah, this is an actual bucket. Oh, and there's another piece over there, right there. What's that? Yeah, that's an old kerosene can. So that's pretty interesting, but that goes to show you that there was definitely some kind of historic activity around here. We're definitely going to mark this spot on the GPS so we can come back here when there's no snow and find out what was going on here. Now, wind's picking up a little bit, and the hit is starting to have a little bit of a bite to it for sure. I always love this fresh snow out here. See a old set of tracks right here. I can't tell what they are, but my guess would be probably a coyote or a bobcat, just based on estimating the size of the divots in the snow, which isn't a lot to go on, but it's something. Yeah, man, there's stumps all over this hillside in here. So there was a lot of wood cutting going on back in here back in the day. That is just absolutely gorgeous out here. Beautiful but cold. Well, I think we're going to start working our way back to the Jeep and see if we can work our way over into another area that I'd like to explore. So we just got a few more things to button up, and then we'll be on the trail. Right now, I'm gonna have a little coffee. It's actually a decent amount of work hiking out there through all this snow. I'm just gonna relax for a couple of minutes, look out at this beautiful scenery around here, enjoy a little bit of coffee, and then we'll throw the rest of the gear in our rig and we'll move on to the next spot. So you can have a pretty good time and be pretty comfortable out camping, overland, and out in the snow if you have the right gear and you kind of know a little bit about what you're doing. That putting those hand warmers on that water jug kept it from freezing solid last night. It did get a little bit of ice in it, but it definitely kept it from freezing solid, which was just perfect because in the morning I was still able to filter water out of it. So this fire reflective wall ended up being just perfect. A good height and a good size that I was able to have my warming fire and a little side cooking fire that I could be cooking on my little grill. This probably saved me a good hour, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, that in this country, in this snow, it would have taken me to construct a fire reflective wall. This is a huge time saver in the winter. Really pleased with the way that it worked. So again, this is the original fire reflector from MC Ranch Overland. You can find him on Instagram. Best way to find him, or at his website. His name's Mike, heck of a guy. Thanks, Mike. I hope you're out there having some adventure of your own too. All right, the grill's been sitting there for a while, so it's nice and cooled off. Another piece of gear I got for Christmas from my brothers over at Overland is this last US bag trasharoo. This thing is a tank. I didn't show you guys last night because it was dark by the time I got it out, but I filled this thing up with some firewood that I had. All right, so pretty much the last thing, throw my cooler in the Jeep, and that is it. Camp is all buttoned up and we're good to go. All right, so we're just going to run up the road here a little bit, and we're going to make a quick stop at this place that I've always called Schoolhouse. And this is a place that, me and my buddy Tony found this years and years ago and have been coming out here hunting for relics and shooting jackrabbits and all kinds of country boy stuff for a long time. We never really knew what it was, and then not too many years ago, I ran into an old boy who knew it as one of Bill Brown's cow camps out here, or horse camps. Ooh, I'm getting into some deep snow here. So just over this little rise right here, we will roll into it, and we'll just jump out real quick and take a look at it and see what's there. It was standing for a long time, and then not too many years ago, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something like that, it finally came down. So here we go. Let's jump out and take a quick peek at it. All right. Woo! That wind's picking up out here. Oh yeah, there's still a little bit of it left. It's like a few people have camped here. There she is. For a long time, this was one of those places that every time I came here, I was absolutely guaranteed to kick a rattlesnake out. That's all that's left of it. Looks like it came down, and slowly but surely it's rotting into the ground. It's a pretty cool piece of country back in here, though. It's a place that Well, there's a little slough in here, and it's kind of a little desert oasis. And we're in this country that we're kind of right on the edge of what I call the juniper uplands, which are these buttes with the juniper trees, and you can see there's some nice rim rocks up there. Where we camped was about a mile back over there. And then just a little bit further to the east and the south, it opens up into the wide open sagebrush desert country. All right, let's get back in the Jeep and head out to another area. Yeah, there's a snowed in set of tracks right there. The icicles hanging off the old Jeep. So this is just beautiful country out here, and this area that we're in was just dotted with homesteads. And I think because the old growth juniper trees, the little bit of terrain here, some hillsides, there were some resources here. And then of course that area back there by the old down schoolhouse had a water source at it, and there's a few more little kind of seasonal springs in this area too. I think as a result of all that is probably why there was such a strong amount of homesteading activity around here. So it's really neat country. I really enjoy exploring this area, and every time I come out here I find more historic activity, more signs of the old homesteads. All right, so we're going back out a stretch of road that we came in on. So one thing I always think about in country like this that I know there is a lot of homestead activity in is just what that life would have been like back then. And especially like being out here now in all this snow and these like 5 degrees, 0 degree temperatures. And you think back in those days about the difference in the kind of equipment and shelter and everything they had versus what we have today. So they didn't have a Mr. Buddy heater or a Cupid heater or anything like that. They had a wood stove or a fireplace inside their cabin, and that was about it. And then you think about like even the clothing they had. For the most part, a lot of these people out here in this country, mostly what they had was cotton clothing. Maybe if they were lucky, they had a few articles of wool or leather. Maybe they had a denim jacket that was lined with sheepskin or something like that. So, but really, you know, they had nothing like we have. They didn't have down. We know how much of a challenge winter camping is, but you just imagine living out here when you had to work out in this all day long, and then in the evening the best you had was a drafty cabin to come back to. You were going to cook over your wood stove in there. There really was no warmth to be had this time of year out in this country that didn't require a lot of effort on a person's part to create. All right, so I thought I'd stop and show you guys a historic site. And I remembered I stumbled across this years ago. Never did get a chance to explore it, but there's some pretty cool stuff here, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. So like I said, I'm not 100% sure what this site is, but look at this old stump. And that's so old it was cut with an axe. And then we're gonna walk up here just a little bit further, and I'm gonna show you guys some of the really interesting stuff that's here. Oh yeah, can you see it, guys? There's a little bit right here in front of us. So you see this old part of a stone wall here, and there's some more stones over there, and the ground's all covered with snow, so we can't really see what was going on there, but I suspect that that was a foundation in there. And there's a couple more in here. This one, yeah, look at this one. All right, whew, that wind's coming up. But here's another one here, and this one, I don't know how well it's showing up on the camera, but this is almost a perfect square with an entrance right over there. So that's definitely some kind of foundation. Let's check out this. Now this was obviously a structure here. Very purpose-built walls. It's unfortunate that it's coming down so much. So I don't know if this was like, if there was a homestead in here and those were a couple of the outbuildings. Maybe it burned. Yeah, this is definitely one of those places where we want to come back and check out. All of these trees were limbed up a long, long time ago. Yeah, it's just hard to tell. It's funny though, you can stand out here and let the sun hit you and almost forget for a minute that it's like 15, 19 degrees out here. All right, let's jump back in the Jeep and head on a little further. All right, guys, well, I got a few more miles before I get back to a main road, so I'm just going to enjoy the rest of the drive and call it a video, I think. So I hope y'all enjoyed tagging along with me. It's always a pretty interesting experience camping out in this country in the harsher parts of the winter time. I know it wasn't super exciting and we didn't get to find a lot of really cool historic spots, but we did find a new little historic spot to come back and check out in the spring. So anyways, again, I hope y'all enjoyed joining me. I know I sure enjoyed having y'all along. I look forward to your comments, your questions. As always, I appreciate your support. And above all else, I'll look forward to seeing y'all in the next adventure. Until then, Coyote Works out.